The longer you wait, the better it gets. I can't follow that up. I don't want to get banned from YouTube. The bottom line is that this is Watches Tonight. Tim and Josh, we're streaming live talking about watches that lose value and why it's wonderful. Guys, it is a fact of life, and we're going to teach you how to use it to your advantage. We're also chatting live. This is an interactive experience, and we've got your viewers' shots tonight on Watches Tonight. Guys, while we're warming up, do me a favor. Check out my Instagram, Tim_Mosso. It is the most colorful watch page on the net, where you can see my 1-minute video, cars, bikes, and the ever-popular Squash the Pug. Viewers' shots number 1. Well, we asked, you answered. This is an interactive show. Rodrigo M., you're leading off. The original Royal Oak 5402, this one in gold and steel. Looking good, desk diving at the office. We got Neil B. Dr. B is a baller in his Bentley Bentayga SUV with the latest H. Moser & C Streamliner flyback chrono. Lawrence L. captures an absolutely wild shot with this Audemars Piguet Royal Oak offshore diver and Bugatti. We've only had maybe 1 or 2 of those sightings on this show before. Mike from Vienna, our friend in Austria, dazzles our screen with one of the first Urban Jurgensen 1140 references. We have Jeff S., who astonishes with a full box full of Hilux sports watches, because of course he does. Bradley G. celebrates his 50th birthday with watches and wine. That Vacheron triple calendar is his birthday gift, and well-deserved. Mark A. is my hero, and he's making me jealous here with his Rolex GMT Master 2 Pepsi and 1961 Chevrolet Corvette. If you didn't like the delay, guys, send your complaints to mondaymailbag at the1916company.com and get your pieces on these pixels. Okay, guys, envision this scenario. We're talking about watches that depreciate and why it's wonderful. Imagine you live in a world where it rains every single day of the year except for one. Well, that's plagiarism, because Ray Bradbury did it already. But, okay, continue the thought. It would stand to reason that you would expect rain all the time. Now imagine you have a delusional neighbor who expresses shock each and every one of those rainy days that it's not hot, sunny, and dry. Gentlemen, we live in this world, and that neighbor is more common than you think, because he's your median collector. Maybe 10 to 15 models out of 100 watch brands and thousands of individual references realistically can be called exclusive, highly sought, and instantly more valuable on the aftermarket. But as with our hypothetical single day of sunshine, you'd be crazy to conclude that this vanishingly rare outcome is the norm. So today we're talking about how you can make depreciation work to your advantage. Josh, explain this to me, because people are so burned out on watches that cost more and can't be found.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a fun way to collect, in my opinion, right? Like just chasing watches at boutiques because they're worth more than you pay. It's a weird scenario, right? First of all, people are looking for something for nothing, right? The whole idea is like, oh, first come, first serve for something that's worth 15 grand or 30 grand or 50 grand more than I paid. So that's number one. But also number two is that if guys have been around for a long time, right? More than, say, 5 years, right? Because that's kind of, now we saw a huge boom in the watch world.
Yeah, and really that's a post-COVID phenomenon, this like psychosis in the aftermarket.
Exactly, right? I mean, there was some booms and some watches that kind of were sought after through retail, but for the majority of watches, even watches that are super hot right now, they all traded below retail.
I mean, like right back in 2016, when we were still at Watch You Want, we would buy a Nautilus for like, what, 15, 16 and sell it for 19, 20?
Yeah, exactly. So Nautilus sold below retail. Every Royal Oak did. I mean,
you could get a jumbo. It was a strong market, but you could find one. If you want to go find one, you could get one.
It wasn't that difficult, but 15400s are now I think, I don't know what the reference is right now, because they change it every other year. They change the 41 millimeter Royal Oak and steel. But
I think we're up to the 15510.
Yeah, 15510.
Correct us if we're wrong.
No, I think that's right. So, so at that time it was a 15400, but a 41 millimeter Royal Oak, blue, black, silver dial, didn't matter. They would trade for far below their retail. First of all, they would only retail for $17,000, and then they would trade on the open market for 12, and dealers would buy them for like 9 or 10.
So we got three things going on here. One, the boutique experience has become much more frustrating, and some pieces have become harder to get. Those pieces, if you want them immediately, cost a lot more than retail on the aftermarket. And then finally, this is a relatively recent phenomenon. There have always been hot watches, the Steel Daytona, the Royal Oak Jumbo. Maybe we could say something like a Chronomètre Bleu from Journe. It's been around for 16 years now.
But those sold for below retail too. I remember I sold when
we would have two Chronomètre Bleu in stock at Watch You Want at a time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I sold when we were authorized dealers for Journe. I sold 3 CBs to the same guy in the same year just because he bought it I don't really like it, trade it back. Okay, you know what, I miss it, let me buy it again. I'm really not loving it, okay, let me buy it again. 3 to 1 guy, and he wasn't flipping them, he was losing money every time he traded.
Yeah, and so this guy would be voted off the island forever if he did this with the Vacheron boutique. But my point is that what's happening in the market right now is a big exception, and Josh has seen it all because he's traded more watches than I could ever sell in 3 lifetimes. So let's just talk about the reality of watches that lose value. But first, let's take a look at our live audience. Tech Pans are in the box. Rich Mitch, Jim Millett of the UK, Junior Johnson from Michigan. We got Moto Gunner from Athens, Georgia. I believe he's in the show. Josh Thanos. Whoa, how does that work?
Inception.
You're in my screen.
Watchception.
Spin the top. We got Edward Ledden of Sweden. We got Jens from Frankfurt, the home of Zinn. Frank M. Abdul from Germany. Michael Everywhere, specifically from Manhattan. No, and we've got Rick on watches. We have Dark Star, and we've got Thomas Oliver Price, HRM. Dr. Stu, good to see you, my man. Okay, let's talk about a watch from Audemars Piguet. So it's basically a given at this point that if you walk into an Audemars Piguet shop, most of what drives their turnover, 95% of their sales, is a Royal Oak. But if you go in for the first time and ask for a Royal Oak, you're going to get turned down 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something that depreciates. AP Code 1159 chronograph. Very appealing,
Such a sick watch.
except for that little bit in the corner, because here is the truth of the aftermarket, guys. And I didn't select the most inexpensive ones either. That's kind of like the middle of my Chrono 24 search result. Josh, how is this $40,000 watch worth less than 30? Like 2 years old?
Well, yeah, so there's a lot of different issues. So with AP, Longa does this as well, but they force you to either package or they force you to buy that watch first. So people who may not love that watch and don't want that watch are forced to buy it in order to get the watch that they want. So what happens is that watch immediately ends up on the secondary market.
So this guy's getting out as quickly as he can.
I mean, not everybody, but yeah, I mean, this is what happens. It happens. Longa's a big one for that, but AP, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a great watch. But if you don't like it, and you want the jumbo, and you do the math, and you say, all right, well, the jumbo is worth $40,000 over retail, and I'm going to lose 15 on this watch, then that's a net gain, and I'll sell this at a loss in order to get what I want that I think is worth more.
That's fair, because whatever the jumbo is worth after the fact, you'll make all your money back.
Or at least you'll feel like you have that value. I mean, I know guys they're going to keep the jumbo, but they're like, all right, well, the jumbo is worth, X amount over. So in the end, they do their math and okay, it's a net positive, even if they're not going to flip the jumbo. They just feel like, all right, well, I have all the value.
They feel like
there.
I've got the equity in that watch, so I'm safe. On a value basis, I'm safe.
Yeah.
We got Miroslav joining in from continental Europe, and we got a friend from Budapest in the box as well. And we've got Eric Nielsen joining in from Fort Lauderdale.
Hey, Eric.
You're in his backyard right
That's
there.
Right, yeah.
Hollywood,
yeah,
Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so basically you're looking at a great watch. Now let's look at an example of something, a rare AP that neither loses a ton of value nor really gains any. And I had to really search, but the Star Wheel, which is my favorite AP,
Fucking cool watch.
that holds its value. I think it's
yeah.
fair to say there's no shortage of them on the market, but that's right about what you pay for it.
Yeah.
And I would say this is a good example of something that, maybe you could get $3,000, $4,000 off, but it's a rare AP that is true to value on the market. It's not hugely marked up, it's not hugely discounted. This is an interesting case of a watch that is really from a weak model line outperforming.
Yeah, well, so this is one of the watches that you have to be. So they're not just going to offer you that watch as your first watch.
I can go and I can get the chronograph and I can get the automatic, but I can't get a Star Wheel.
From what I understand, no. And in fact, actually, I have a good client who just bought a Debatoon. He's obsessed with that watch. But the last AP he got, which was that Star Wheel, because he's had everything else. He's been a big client of AP, and he's like, how many Royal Oaks can you own? And he didn't really love a lot of the non-complicated or the chronograph versions of the 1159, but that Star Wheel, I mean, unequivocally cool. Like the old Star Wheel's great. That is probably the best model that they make. I mean, they make a perpetual, don't they?
Yeah, they make a perpetual.
Amarantine perpetual, which is nice too.
It's a great looking dial. I mean, and then they've got their new perpetual movement.
That's right. Very nice
cool.
watch.
But the Star Wheel is like a heritage piece. Like it's something that predates the modern era of AP. It goes back to 1991.
So this or that, the Star Wheel or the Spider-Man watch?
I would say that I can't wear the Spider-Man watch. It's too big for me.
Yeah, okay.
So,
That's the only reason.
Exactly. Otherwise, I'd be all about that,
Yeah.
But I will say this, let's do a wrist check. Some people are asking. Linda Verdlin.
Yeah. So this thing has not left my wrist. I've been buying watches again. My youngest daughter understands now not to grab them and wave them above her head as she runs through the house. So
they're not the toys.
Right, they're not her toys. So
yeah, exactly.
She's being a bit more safe. So I have been buying watches, but you know the watch that I always reach for is my Octopus, which Jorn is now a friend of mine. You introduced me to him years ago, but a good friend of mine. He's launching a new model, but you know, Linda Verdlin, if you haven't heard of them, super small brand. They make about 100 watches a year, all Swiss made. Now all the movements are made by JF Mojon, so really high-end movements. The best sport watch I've ever owned. I'm obsessed with the watch. I love it.
It's an almost relaunch. We're not there quite yet, but he'll be the man with the news when the time comes.
Yeah, I'll post it.
I'm wearing my Moser Pioneer, guys, going with a green watch. You know how that is.
We both got a little green.
Very cool. You got a green shirt.
Oh, that's right, too. Yeah. Green exit, green shirt.
All right, guys. So now here's the interesting thing. Vacheron Constantin, American 1921. Most people would argue this is pretty much as definitive a design as Vacheron has. Vacheron doesn't have a Calatrava, a Nautilus, a Royal Oak, a Reverso, a Speedmaster Professional, or a Navitimer. But I think most people, if forced to decide what the definitive Vacheron shape is, would probably name this watch. But here's the problem, almost $43,000. Expect serious price accommodations because this model, almost unmodified, has been around since 2008. Now, Josh, we're talking about paying $23,000 for this, and again, I didn't select the cheapest returns on my Chrono 24 search. Is it that Vacheron is weak, that this isn't a sports watch, or is there something else going on, that it's a non-round watch? Like, I can see this being well outside the mainstream, but this is Vacheron's icon here.
Right, so you have to understand, number one, Vacheron makes about less than 40,000 watches a year, okay? And they have a bunch of model lines, a lot of them, right? Some of them are more relevant than others. So it's funny, I like that watch, I can appreciate it, I wouldn't own it. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people feel the same way as me.
Would you buy it used for that kind of price?
Personally, me?
Yeah.
No, because I won't wear the watch.
Okay.
I like the watch. I've sold it many times. I think I sold one this month. I think it's fantastic. If you like the watch and would wear it, I think it's a great buy, but I think it's a little too esoteric for somebody like me, and maybe more people feel like that. So I think what it comes down to is relevancy, right? How many do you make, and is it a relevant model? So like, there's a number in which they can make that would allow that watch to trade at its retail or above, but the number is probably way less than they make. That's all.
It would almost have to be something where they make 100 a year.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
so, and which wouldn't be worth it for them to make. So, you know, this is what manufacturing's about. You know, like you have to. It's a balance between how many can I sell and then how many can I make at a cost that makes sense, right? So, like that's the balancing act. I worked in manufacturing before I was in the watch industry, so I've dealt with that in the past. Generally, you over manufacture. It's just kind of how it works, right? Because you need to lower your costs to a certain point. But that does not change the fact that watch is unequivocally an amazing watch, right? Like super amazing finishing, very unique. Like there's no other brand that makes a watch that's anything near.
No one's going to mistake that for anything else.
Absolutely not. And it has so much of Vacheron DNA. So if you like the watch, then it's a great buy, especially now, you know, pre-owned.
Yeah, I mean, a fantastic watch. I think it's hurt by the fact that since it came out in 2008, yes, there have been other models. Yes, there's a mid-size, but it's mostly been the same watch. It's been, you know, 40 millimeters with a 4400 caliber. So if you keep making the same watch for decades on end, eventually the population on the market is going to outstrip the demand.
Right, and then because everybody now, I mean, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, the guy who would be searching for the watch online was a very specific person. Now it's everybody.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it's also important to remember that sometimes you can be hot for a while and either overplay your hand or you can exhaust demand. So here's a case. Take a watch that once had Rolex-like waiting lists, and I say this is important because it was the Omega gray side of the moon.
Oh, yeah.
When this first came out in 2014, there were waiting lists. There were people asking for these and unable to get them at Omega dealers. And I should mention that the last retail of this version, this is the previous generation, it was $15,200 with the folding clasp. But pre-owned inventory is more affordable. Even if you filter out the cheapest examples, you can still pick this up for under $10,000 box and papers. Mm-hmm. And this is a watch that went from as hot as a watch can be to as many as you want, anytime, anywhere. How does it get to this point? And if you are a brand and you realize you've got a watch this hot out of the gate, should you actually pull back a little bit for the sake of sustainability?
I mean, so it's hard to say, right? Because we don't know the economics of each of how these brands are, determining how many to manufacture.
Does it matter that we're often talking about publicly traded companies? If it's like Richemont or Swatch.
Yeah, I think that does matter a lot, right? Because for them, they calculate their
investor.
Right. Well, they calculate their success on exports, right? That's the whole thing. How many watches were shipped out, and then obviously there's revenue and profitability, but generally all you hear is Swiss exports. So I mean that's a great example of a watch that's super relevant. When it came out the gate, people loved it, but Omega makes like 1 million watches a year, right? So they can very quickly satiate the market, really quickly, and then also because it's Omega, that's what they do, right? They're going to make 1 million different variations, which like all of them are great. But again, now you have, if I'm a consumer, I have all these, diluting the market. So, and they're not, I don't think their main concern is, well, how much is this going to trade once this person is done with that watch? That's not their main concern. I think it's more relevant now than it was 10 years ago for all these brands. They pay attention to it, where in the past they would just act like it didn't exist. Like they don't care what you did with the watch.
They used to be all about sell in, not sell through. I think they're a little bit more concerned about both sides of it at that point.
Right.
So that's an interesting case, and again, that's a great watch to own. Like all these watches we've talked about, the great pieces.
I've owned it. It's great.
In some ways, they're better than the hype watches. It's just if there's a soft market.
I'm hype on that watch. I like that watch. I think the
if you buy it to keep it,
the side of the moon
doesn't matter.
Almost every side of the moon is awesome, right? Like I've owned that watch. I've owned Dark Side of the Moon. I've owned all sorts of different versions. It's a great watch. It fits great. Like again, for somebody like me who's going to wear like a larger sport watch, it's a freaking awesome watch, and especially. If you then calculate, even at the retail, but if you look at the resale value, right? So if you can buy that watch for 10 grand, so what other watch are you going to be able to buy from a brand that makes a movement that's rock solid, that's a fully ceramic chronograph
with a platinum dial,
platinum dial, right? Like it doesn't exist, especially for 10 grand. Right, like you can't find another company that'll make that watch for $25,000.
When I think of platinum dials, I think of like Vacheron Excellence Platine, and the watches cost tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, or Yachtmaster. Yeah, exactly.
Even then, that's a hard thing to get.
Right, it's very different, right? But I mean, that watch has way more technology than a Yachtmaster. So,
and it's a great timekeeper, and I mean ceramic, guys. Like that's your forever material. If you're not the kind of guy who shatters sapphires on your watch, then ceramic is probably good to go for you. Yeah. Guys, stay with us. Let's get over 200 concurrent viewers. Let's see what's going on in the chat box. Julius Caesar,
by the way.
Oh, there we go. Oh, right, man. Woo, we did it. Let's hit 300 now. We have Julius Caesar, who, in spite of, I guess, common wisdom, survived. Not just the knives, but the ages. I agree that Omega has too many SKUs. That's true. You can just keep clicking on Omega's website and never run out of load more, load more.
They make a lot of watches. I mean, they've been around forever, and they have a million different SKUs.
Okay, I think there was a misunderstanding that this is a Motorhead shirt. This is the other heavy metal umlaut, the original one. I think BOC was doing that before Lemmy and crew. I think Lemmy was probably still with Hawkwind when BOC started using that umlaut. And remember, Spinal Tap had it over a consonant. That was good. But by the way, Stonehenge is a legitimate hard rock classic. The band may be fake, but the song is real. Okay.
Tim knows more about classic rock and cars than he does about watches. So think about that next time you log on.
Yeah, my car/metal stream is going to be like the new feature. Okay, so let's talk about a brand where people assume that everything from the boutique automatically, not necessarily the boutiques, they don't have them, but everything from the dealer automatically surges to unobtainable prices. Patek Philippe 5236 perpetual calendar, the inline calendar. This only came out 4 years ago. My favorite Patek Philippe costs $170,712. But used, excellent value, and again, I'm not showing you the cheapest ones, but from top-tier major market dealers. Warranty still applied in most cases, since now they have 5 years. So you're talking about a watch that is, approaching now $200,000 in retail price, and you can find examples in the low 90s. So I'm thinking this is a great buy for someone who loves it for what it is, and is not a speculator and is looking to buy and hold.
Well, I mean, it's still a $100,000 watch, but so this is.
But you're also lopping $75,000
right
off
the
the price.
Yeah, absolutely. But so there's a few things to consider here.
Okay.
Number one, they literally just had a 15% price increase. Patek reacted to the tariffs, 39%. Which,
and also the appreciation of the franc above the dollar, because that's two things: it's the tariff and the
so
currency.
nobody talks about it, right? So now there's a 20% gulf. So like for example, I talked to Jorn about this, right? So he prices his watch in Swiss francs. All of a sudden, in the last year, he had a 20% price increase. You gotta consider that. So there's that. The 20% price increase just because of the devaluation of the dollar, and then a 15% price increase.
Which, by the way, hasn't taken effect yet. We're still operative, on the old tariff rate, which was much higher.
No, I know that. What I'm saying, no, but Patek increased their retails by 15% last month. So, or it could have been a little bit longer than that, and my head spins. But they just had a price increase. I was talking to someone about this, and I think that, especially with watches like that, other than the hype watches, the market's not going to react overnight, right? So that's where you see that big gulf. When that watch was 15%, what's 15%? That ends up being probably 149, 148, something like that, right? So, I mean, it's still a huge difference in the price. Like, you're still losing 30% if you were to buy it brand new through boutique at that old price. But now with the price bump, it looks like it's a huge gulf. And I mean,
that's
right
really
now it is.
That's really just circumstances preying on.
Right, yeah, current circumstances. But you can see that creates a huge value play, right? So if I'm looking to add that watch to my collection, I can go buy it new, and maybe I don't care about money, and maybe I want to be the first owner. Cool, buy it. Or I can save myself $70,000 by finding it from a reputable reseller.
And if you want that watch specifically, let's say you're not just looking for a Patek that sells under retail. Let's say you're me and you love that watch and you've loved it since the day it came out. Right. And now you're looking at an opportunity to get it in relatively fresh condition, boxes, papers. That's a really good value. And that's sort of been the premise since Watch You Want through the watch box days, and now 1916 still has a big pre-owned watch component. So there are people who are new watch only folks, and there are also people who are new car only folks. Yeah. And I've never been among their numbers.
That's a different thing. I had that conversation all the time. A car could never be new again, right? Drive that. If I drive that car for a week, it'll never be new again. A watch can be brought back to new condition. It's a different thing.
Well, a watch has a longer service life. You go to the Patek Philippe Museum, there's a 500-year-old watch and it works.
Right, literally, right. So comparing, there's a lot of comparisons between watches and cars. In terms of new
People
or new
tend
condition,
to like them, but they are not the same thing.
No,
it's
exactly.
Same collector, same enthusiast, but they are not the same.
Let me drive your car for a week, and that car will never be new.
Yeah,
again,
he has small children. Trust me.
Exactly.
Okay, or take a look at something that's even more dramatic, like the Patek Philippe 5520P. This might be the coolest watch they sell.
I like
24-hour alarm, travel time, platinum, over 500 pieces in the movement, digital alarm setting, fully luminescent. I mean, this watch has everything going for it. But 281,510 or more when it was new, the platinum model. Pre-owned, nearly half that. And that's a very agreeable discount if you're looking to not be the first owner. You're going to get this watch fairly fresh and an unbelievable catalog of capabilities. Guys, there is no Nautilus or Aquanaut that can do all of those things. That is a watch that sounds like a minute repeater because it has a minute repeater chiming train. It's got the governor, it's got the gongs, it's got the steel strikers. It's an amazing watch. But you are going to get a little bit of a bargain compared to buying it new. And I think everyone assumes, well, Patek Philippe, the sky's the limit when a watch is used. That is not universally the case. That's definitely the case with application pieces, limited editions, sports watches. But there are watches where if you're looking to own a Patek for less than retail, you do have some options, even on very complicated pieces.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and there's so much Patek DNA in both of those watches, right?
Yeah.
That's what I like. I mean, so, I had this conversation pretty often about what's my favorite watch, or should I buy this Nautilus or whatever. And the thing about this is Nautilus is a nice watch, okay? Is it the best watch that Patek makes? Absolutely not, right? Even from a level of finishing and manufacturing, right? It's going to be a scaled down version of a watch.
And to be fair, if you do get it at retail price, it's not priced like these crazy complications.
No, of course not, right? And that's the point, right? So you're going to be paying a much lower retail price, but if you pay open market pricing for a sport model, it's like you might pay $200,000 for a 5990 that you can, for $200,000 you can have really the greatest Patek. You can have
you could have bought that Calatrava travel time alarm new for that kind of money.
Without a doubt. Or you can buy a 5270, right, for 50 grand less than what we're talking about. So, and that has every bit of Patek DNA that goes into it. Right?
And I mean, that's a perpetual calendar chronograph. That's like the heart and soul of the brand.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, all of this is really important. And what we're trying to say here is that there's depreciation, but then there's also instant availability. So Josh talked about getting a Nautilus at retail. Well, you're going to have to wait if you want to do that. But if you pay a markup on the aftermarket, you could have it immediately. What we're talking about today are watches that are available immediately and for less than retail. And that's sort of the magic of depreciation. Right there, we've got Jack saying 5204P, one of the best and can be had for nearly half of retail. Abdul from Germany saying Linda Verdlin watches can be gotten for under $5,000 with box and papers. Great deal. That's true. Their older pieces are real buys.
Yeah, for the ETA models.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And then Dr. Stu saying many brands moving to boutique-only business model. It's increased the value loss in many models as they generally don't discount at boutiques. That's an interesting perspective, that proliferation of factory stores will increase depreciation.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. Ali Reza in the box, and we're glad to have him. We got James Tybor in the box saying Omega used all the way, and I don't disagree. Truman Burbank saying only pre-2009 Pateks have the Geneva seals. I believe July of 2009 was the switch over. Okay, viewer shots number 2. Curtis and DJ the Pug watched Tim and Squash the Pug on last week's episode of Watches Tonight. Adam D shares Santos and Beagle with his Cartier Santos 100 and friend. Danny N from New York City showcases Nomos' blockbuster 2025 launch, the World Timer. Ben 10 stuns with this mid-century Cicolatone LeCoultre US market classic. Wow. And Robert C impresses with his Speedmaster Moonwatch anniversary and Jaguar F-Type wheels. Guys, send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com. Okay, watches depreciate and it's wonderful. Let's talk about an integrated bracelet sports watch because I think there's a misperception that all of these things are infinitely valuable. Girard Perregaux Laureato. It's been around since 1976. Okay, you can't translate directly from euros right there, but it's going to be around 15,000 US dollars. I did the legwork. Do you even have to do the math to see what a bargain this is for under 9 grand? I mean, Josh, there you go. It has real history, the pedigree of a high horology brand. It's 100 meters, steel, automatic, well loomed. What's not to like here?
Right now, it's like fully independent company. I guess. Well, they're part of the UN.
UN. So,
right. Small runs, hand finished. Like that is, if you want to compare that to all the Genta ones, like there's no better value.
Yeah, and it's a great watch too. Like I'm not slagging it down. I'm just saying this is a buy. I'm going to run through a couple of things real quick, and I want you to consider all of these. Let's say you want a Nautilus level of decoration from your Chopard Alpine Eagle. Get the Alpine Eagle 41 XPS. So 29,100, this is the coolest Alpine Eagle. Geneva seal, COSC chronometer, micro rotor manufacturer movement. Get ready to pay less, not a lot less. Value retention is pretty strong, all things considered, but there is a price drop and you can use that to your advantage. IWC Ingenieur Automatic 40. Great looking watch. Came out only 2 years ago. A genuine Gerald Genta integrated design from his golden era, 1976. And personally, it's one of my favorites. I think that's a great looking dial. $12,900 isn't a lot of money by the standards of a Nautilus or Royal Oak. Still, there are deals to be had out there, and this is an 8-year warranty, guys, so those deals might be even better than they look. Laurent Ferrier Sport Auto. Not cheap at $59,000. It actually does a solid job of value retention right here, where, for the most part, I would say not many available and inconclusive on depreciation. Is this a sign of like production discipline? Because that's what's on Chrono 24.
Yeah. So, well, the thing about Laurent Ferrier is they make so few watches, and I don't think they could overproduce if they wanted to, right? Like, yeah. and so this goes back to some of the issues, right? So if you see a watch that's depreciated in value, and like. I keep saying this, I have these conversations, but because I talk to people every day about this kind of stuff, new collectors, older collectors, but like you can't judge like, hey, is this a good watch based on its trading value? It's almost completely disconnected from its trading value. Is this a good
watch? Qualitatively, yes. Value, no.
Right. So
unless you buy it used.
Well, that's the point, right? So like when we talk about these things, I say, you have to separate the trading value above or below its retail from the watch itself. So like that Laurent Ferrier is an incredible watch. So the reason why that watch doesn't trade for whatever, like Jorn money, is there's there's a few things. Number one, it's not the most relevant. Like it looks way better in person than it does. It doesn't photograph that well.
It looks a little bit, shall we say, maybe a bit overweight or blurry.
Yeah,
online.
Online, the pictures of it seem like it's unbalanced. It seems like it's a much bigger watch. On the wrist, it's actually a fantastic watch. So that's number one. Number two is it's a marketing issue. Like,
when was the last time you saw anything said on behalf of Laurent Ferrier that wasn't just an article on a model launch?
If there was a picture of Laurent Ferrier today, could you point him out? I could point Jordan out. You could too. Almost everybody could, right? You can't
what does he look like?
I don't know. I mean,
I know because I met him. But.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But generally, people don't know, and so it's a marketing issue. Marketing and distribution is the biggest issue when it comes to the watch industry, and it always has been. It's the post-COVID boom fixed it for them, and we're just waiting for them. We're seeing a little bit like this increase in production, AP increase in production. Yeah. So we're waiting for them to mess it up, but that's always been an issue. Marketing distribution has always been the issue with watches.
Okay, so let's talk about a watch that's kind of similar in a lot of ways. The Vacheron Overseas. We're looking at the third generation watch, 26,800. I blew that up a bit for you so you could see it. Does a pretty good job staying relevant if we're talking about the blue dial or the black dial, because that is darn close to what it retails for. So that's a sign of reasonable match between production and demand. But I would also say it's not the same for every dial. Look what the silver dials cost. Now we're in that low $20,000 range. You're saving a good $5,000. If you're not too particular about what dial, that could be a real bargain.
It's great watching. If you want to see something funny, if you want to do a little fun exercise, you can scroll back on our channel back to 2014 when that watch was launched. Tim and I did a show talking about is Vacheron crazy? They're releasing their new version of their steel sport watch for more than the Nautilus. Who the heck do they think they are?
But here's the thing, they also released it in the middle of a big recession for the watch market. There was this European southern debt crisis in like 14, 15, and 16, and there was this watch industry recession that didn't exactly match any recessions in major economies. It was like an inside the industry thing. The problem with the Overseas, and the reason why we were actually like onto something with the price, was that it had always been a watch that sold on the basis of it being cheaper than a Nautilus or Royal Oak, and then there was also overproduction, so it was often discounted below retail. So by the time they came out with a hard and fast, like $30,000 retail on that, like the chronograph model initially, it was like close to twice what people were used to paying for an Overseas chronograph.
Yeah, it was. Well, it's so funny. I watched that like last year. I went back and watched it. And I remember we're like, it's over-engineered, it's overpriced. Who's going to buy? And now, probably one of the best values in steel sport watches.
It's a great watch.
Yeah. So what changed? The market changed dramatically, right? Like people weren't paying $30,000 for a steel sport watch. Like Pateks at that time were trading basically at the retail. The Nautilus was trading at retail at that time. So it was so funny. But now it's an incredible value. Like I just had this conversation with a new collector who's looking for a steel sport watch, and I'm like, you know what? The Vacheron, he likes the silver dial. I'm like, you get 3 watches in one, super high level finishing, probably
straps, bracelet,
best engineering. The bracelet, that's the best steel sport watch bracelet. Like people say that the Royal Oak is not even close in my opinion.
Because the Royal Oak bracelet is finished, but the Vacheron bracelet is finished and engineered. You've got the quick release, 2 micro adjustments. You've got every single link removable.
That is the biggest point, right? Like, you know how expensive it is to do that alone? Yeah. There's a reason, and that they're screw pins. They're not punch.
They're not just like pin sleeves.
Pin sleeves, right?
Yeah.
Which
the Nautilus is.
All right. So I mean, the amount of engineering and cost that goes into that watch, like, I mean, obviously they sell it for more than it costs, but like I would say that is probably.
The pricing is as honest as a Holy Trinity steel integrated bracelet sports watch can get.
That's what I was thinking in my head. You just said it out loud.
Viewers' shots number 3. Daniel K. in his Tudor Black Bay 58 overlooks Switzerland's Lake Lucerne at dawn. Abdul R. He's in the box. Now he's on your screen. Fortis B42 Marine Master Altair edition at Berlin's Brandenburg Gate. Jim R. rolls with his mechanical Omega DeVille Trésor Orbis edition with a quartz car. It's his Tesla. We got Kevin Y. of Boston's out and about with IWC Pilot's watch, an Audi B8 generation A4 with a 6-speed, and it's an S4 right there, as you can see. We got Richard G., a man after my own heart, with a modern take on the classic Rado Diastar, and actually he's got quite a few of them. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the 1916company.com to see your pieces on the pixels with both of us. Watches depreciate, it's wonderful. Now let's talk about iconic watches and why they are not immune. Okay, Nautilus, Royal Oak, iconic, and they accelerate into the stratosphere used. That's not always the case. JLC Reverso Tribute, small seconds, 11,400, but you have more options pre-owned and at lower prices, even though this is a boutique exclusive. So Josh, pretty much right out of the gate, we're looking at some sort of a discount, and again, 8-year warranty, Richemont brand. This is a no-lose.
Yeah, I think this is one of the biggest sleeper watches because it's not quite a sport watch, but it really is.
Yeah.
Right? It's super iconic. There's no other watch like it. People have tried, and no one's ever came close.
Other than Cartier, I don't think anyone has more success marketing non-round watches.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. But the Santos, which they can literally be side by side in the same collection, the Santos and the Reverso. The Reverso is so different. But that's one watch that I feel like there's always when they release a new one, everybody loves it. And like nobody's willing to pay over retail for it.
There's also too many Reverso models.
That's
Look, even I have trouble keeping track of all of them. The other problem we've got is that unlike the Speedmaster Professional or the 5811 or the 16202, it's hard to define what the core Reverso is.
Right.
Like what is the core model? What is the definitive version of the watch? There isn't one.
I like the worst one they make, which is the Squadra. Everybody hates the Squadra. I remember I looked at one like last year. I was going down a rabbit hole. I couldn't believe how unbelievably cheap it was. I love that one.
Chronograph, world time, vulcanized rubber wrapped bracelet. That's
it was like
incredible.
less than $7,000 or something. Like the price did not make any sense to me whatsoever.
But it's a great watch.
Watch
That's
is
the thing.
incredible.
They haven't made it for years, but here's the thing. The tribute to 1931 of 2011 is what the Reverso core model should look like. And it should be available on a continuous basis so people know what the archetype is instead of trying to figure out which of the innumerable models is actually the backbone model. They need something that's a little bit more simplified and obvious. Fewer models in the collection and then just a two-hand watch that says Reverso. That's what it should be. Also, take a look at the Omega Speedmaster Professional. We're talking about the Moonwatch. Yes, this may be the definitive model, and everyone knows what the core Moonwatch is. This is full bracelet sapphire sandwich, $9,000, but even in space, gravity still applies. And you can see for just over $6,000, you can get one of these full box paper, accessory straps, the strap tools, all the pictogram cards. That is about as iconic a watch as it comes. There's nothing wrong with this watch. NASA trusts it in space, but mass production.
So this is actually, in my opinion, the fact that these things trade used for like 65 to 7 is actually incredible because if we know how many watches they make so many watches, and while they do make a lot of ladies' watches, probably the most prolific watch they make is gonna be that watch. So
scarcity is not a thing.
No, but you know what? The demand for Omega in general always blows my mind, right? We always sell Omega fast. There's no Omega that sits for too long. It doesn't matter if it's gold, if it's whatever, and they trade obviously below their retail. But with as many as they make, I would expect that watch to trade for like $4,500.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's actually holding a price a little bit higher than it should based purely on volume. There's an incredible amount of reverence for the Speedmaster Professional.
And Omega in general.
No astronaut who ever trusted his life or her life on that watch was like, well, I wonder what it costs used.
Right, yeah,
no, it was can this watch do unbelievable things in extreme conditions? And yes, it can. And it sells on that basis. And I think that is the reason why it is like a $6,700 or $6,000, $7,000 watch pre-owned. So there's actually quite a bit to recommend it. And Omega invests in it. It's not like it's the same watch it's been for 40 years. There have been different generations, better materials, a new movement.
They make all sorts of Speedmasters, and there's always a buyer for an Omega. Just like a Submariner will always sell. We'll never turn down an offer if somebody wants to sell us an Omega. We could have 50, we could have 200 pre-owned Submariners. We'll always buy another. Same thing with Omega.
And that's important with a watch pre-owned. There's always a permanent market for them. That says a lot.
They're always liquid, That's
Let's talk about something that's close to my heart and yours. Alanka und Sonne, the Datograph. We're talking about how icons can not really hold their value even while they maintain respect. Well, this is the 405035. This is the Dato up-down. Here's a weird thing about the Datograph. Where you've got Submariners, where you've got Speedmaster Professionals, where you've got Reversos, a lot of people trust that the iconic status transfers from generation to generation. Whereas with the Datograph, people often speak about a specific generation, the 403035. So let's work our way through that. The current Datograph up, down, and platinum, the one you're looking at here, The 405 is 126,800 new. Even if we only scan US market sellers, it's still a buyer's market, under 80 grand.
It's ours.
In some cases, yeah, we're in there, under 70 grand. In fact, even if we take the icon of icons, the 403035, you could see even then, it's still a buyer's market.
Yeah, that's my favorite watch. And well, it's funny because the price is way up from what it was back when I first discovered this model about 10 years ago. But
where was it back then?
It was
50s and
50s. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could. Well, we would buy them pre-owned between $35,000 and $40,000. And while that was way too much for me back then, at least it seemed like it was within reach. Now, if I want to buy one, which I do, and I will eventually own one of those watches, it looks like I got to pay around 70 grand. Which, I mean, the thing is, again, value for dollars on that watch is mind blowing.
Look, the quality of what you're getting. Where Philippe Dufour paid his own money to own one?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so not that we should do this, right? Because market is very different, but you compare that to any Journe, right? Like, so you can buy a CS for the price that you can pay for the 403, the 403035.
I honestly, the Datto is such like a seminal piece and like an industry changer and a defining moment for not just the brand, but the entire watch space. So I don't understand how the 403035 is worth as little as it is. I have a better understanding of why the up-down isn't as revered. It's just not as appealing a watch. It's bigger, it's bulkier, fewer people can wear it. Technically it's superior, but it's no more beautiful. That's the thing.
Longa has a marketing problem, right? Like, there's no first-time watch buyers buying a Longa. It just doesn't happen, right?
It's a very rare thing.
Right, like, and again, there's a lot of brands like that, right? But I think that if I was in charge of a watch brand, my goal would be to find brand new watch buyers so that I can educate them on my watch. So even if they can't afford it right now, they understand it, and now it becomes, they understand what we make, how many we make, and the quality, and why we ask the price we ask. No new watch buyers are going to Longa, right?
I would say that's why the longer you study watches and immerse yourself in the community before you start buying, the better decisions you'll make. You'll know the difference between quality and hype, and you'll have a better sense of what's out there.
But I saw a watch that I like and I want to buy it now.
I have to have that Royal Oak.
Well, this is the problem with me because I buy a watch and then I'll go watch all your videos on it afterwards to educate myself just because I'm crazy impulsive, but hopefully most people are not that way.
That's me. How recursive is this? Me with my computer, and you're watching me with my computer. I thought The Matrix would have been a better series if they'd had a twist at the very end where the whole thing had been a recursive program. Inside the Matrix, outside the Matrix, they were really in the Matrix the whole time. That would have been so much better than what they actually did. Okay, ponder that.
Yeah.
Breitling Navitimer 41. This is not fan fiction, this is fact.
Oh, there you go.
It's a good watch, and most people would say something like the Navitimer 41 is the core model. And, I mean, back to the mid-1950s, this is the icon. It's highly technical. Maybe it's not as accessible as a Speedmaster Professional or something like a Reverso. It's a little bit abstract. Most people don't know how to use their own bezel. But still, this is the heart and soul no matter how many Super Ocean heritages they sell. Even so, there's value and options to be found on the aftermarket, though I have to say, given where Breitling was 7 years ago, that's actually pretty strong resale value.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Breitling and Omega are very similar in my opinion for that same reason, right? Like,
There's always a buyer for a Breitling, and they make so many watches. They make less watches than Omega, though, I think, right?
Yeah, still less than Omega.
Yeah, but they make
hundreds of thousands of watches.
And they kind of have a little bit of the AP issue where it's like, okay, it's only going to be very few models. They don't have so many different SKUs. So like they're making like how many Navitimers?
Yeah, a big part of what George Kern did, he's like, look, we can't have 20,000 watches on the website.
Right, exactly. But so it's for whenever I'm talking to someone about a Breitling, it's usually Navitimer or Chronomet. Those are the two models that people go after, and then Super Ocean is secondary. And that's because honestly it competes with the Planet Ocean, which I think is a slightly better watch.
Yeah, if you're competing with like Submariners, Seamasters, maybe that's like your third go-to like dive watch.
Right. No, Breitling does pilots watches better than dive watches.
I think that's a fact.
It's just the truth, right?
So,
but it's a great watch again, like for the money, especially in today's market. Like you buy that, so 10.6 feels, as somebody who's been doing this for 15 years or so, it feels expensive for that watch, but so they've upped the quality, right? Like the Breitling makes quality watches.
Quality, value, ergonomics, they fit better than they used to.
And nobody's ever looked at a Navitimer and said that thing's ugly, that thing sucks. I hate that watch. Like it's not very polarizing.
It's the kind of watch that connects with you because you love the technical aesthetic, or it doesn't. It is a love-hate watch, in my opinion. I think I'm going to disagree maybe with Josh a little bit.
Fair enough.
I think some people look at that bezel and it fries their mind.
It's a little busy. Maybe that's one of the criticisms you get. But generally, like, it's a well-received watch, right? So you have that. And the fact that it trades, what did we saw? And there was like $7,500
Yeah,
bucks?
75 to like 8,500.
Okay, so I mean, that's Breitling's holding a tremendous amount of value compared to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is the sign of progress, and those are not the cheapest or the most expensive, but this is like the middle of my search result.
mid-tier, sure, yeah.
Okay, so the IWC Portuguese, since 1939,
good one.
this has been the second column of IWC. On the one hand, you have the pilots, and on the other hand, you have this. Now, it was rare before the early 1990s in the 5441 reference, but it's become a constant in the catalog since then. And the current 5017 Portuguese or 7-day feels like the backbone of the collection, even if it's not the top-selling model, because that's the chronograph.
Yeah.
This will set you back $13,900 on the web. You'll discover that this model actually holds its value fairly well, and for the champagne dial, it's even a little bit better than that. But there is still some value to be gained. You can save yourself $2,000–3,000 if you shop around. Remember, if you buy from a private owner or a distant vendor, oftentimes there may be tax advantages as well.
Yeah, that's true. So the thing about this model is that, and kind of everything we talked about, the stainless steel models that have the lower retails generally hold the most value. Like, if you want that watch but a crazy value, go get a rose gold one.
Okay.
They trade at like half or below their retail.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, and the watch is incredible.
And you know, it's a great watch. It's just the challenge there, and I'm gonna kind of recommend, because so little has changed since the original 7-day Portuguese automatic, the reference 5000, that, you know, if you're willing to shop, and if you're willing to shop earlier Portuguese 7 days, you know, if you're willing to go back to some of the previous references, like the 5007, there are going to be better deals to be had on a watch that looks exactly the same, and at least in terms of the movement and the power reserve, technically speaking, it is almost exactly the same. So this is where you really find some savings. This is where you can find yourself saving up to $5,000 to get that watch. Yeah. That's important to remember. Viewer wrist shots number 4, guys. We're at the end now. Eric O of Hawaii is skydwelling with Rolex during the football game. We got Matthew W has a blue Squale and matching Kiesel headless guitar and Ford Grabber blue. I've got a 1993 DC 135 and I got it 100% because of Jason Becker. Gus G of Georgia captures an unconventional wrist angle with his CW Sapphire Edge. Stephen E shares a rare sight with his Jacques Hedreau Grand Seconde. And Stephen's back sent another shot I can't ignore with his JLC Master Control calendar in blue. Craig K, who has all the toys, takes us home with his Shelby F-150 motorcycle, Merlin XLR titanium bicycle, and Blancpain 50 Fathoms titanium. Guys, send all of your wheels and watches to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com. Guys, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you for my technical team for overcoming our early tech troubles. And thank you, Josh, for making the trip up from South Florida.
It's always a pleasure. There we go.
Is that paper and rock right there?
I win.
Josh
Finally.
wins, guys. Until next time, time out.